Today in Algebra 1 we're going to be focusing on parallel and perpendicular lines. Now remember, when we talk about parallel lines, those are lines that are going to travel in the same direction, never hitting each other. Perpendicular lines are ones that meet, and typically when they meet we'll see something like a 90-degree angle or a square made, or a number where it says 90. You'll see something. So those two ideas are what we're going to deal with lines today, and we're basically going to focus on their slopes and what that tells us. So first of all, parallel lines are lines that never hit, but they have to have the same slope. So you'll notice here, this one has a slope of 2. This one also has a slope of 2. So they have the same slopes. That's this part right here. They also have different y-intercepts. So this one has a y-intercept of -5. This one has a y-intercept of +7. Now listen, we have to make sure that they have the same slope and different y-intercepts. If they have the same slope and the same y-intercept, it's the same line. So you want to make sure that they're actually different lines. So when we deal with these kind of problems, first of all, you're going to look at a y== equation. So this one is y= 3x plus 9, which means in this one, the slope, or the m, would be 3. Now if I want to deal with a line that's parallel, it's going to have a same slope as this. And we're actually going to use this point. So we're going to use the point slope formula. So if I'm using this formula, my slope is going to have to be 3. This x(1) is the x value of the point that you get. So our x value in this point is 2. And our y value, this y(1), has to be the y value here, which is going to be -6. So if I bring the rest of my equation part down, it looks like this. Now normally when we look at these lines, we want them to be in y= form, which means we have a couple pieces of simplifying to do. We can see those two negatives make a positive. So it's going to be y + 6 = 3x - 2. But now I'm going to need to distribute this 3 to both numbers. So y + 6 = 3 times x is 3x. 3 times -2 is -6. So now we're close to y= form. We just have to move this 6. So we're going to subtract 6 from both sides. Y = 3x - 12. And this is our final equation. Now you could tell by this has a 3 for the slope just like the other one. But by having a different point, I was able to get -12 as my y-intercept. Remember, originally +9 was my y-intercept. So that gives you an idea of how to deal with the parallel lines. What happens now when they're perpendicular? So if they're perpendicular, these are two that happen to be perpendicular. This slope is 4, and the slope down here is -1/4. So listen, if my slope is 4, that's really 4/1. So if they're going to be perpendicular, then the slopes have to be what's called negative reciprocals of each other. So reciprocal is a fancy term for flipping the fraction. So if this is 4/1, I have to flip it so it's 1/4. But when it says negative reciprocals, that means they have to be opposite sides. So if this one is positive, then this one has to be negative. So being able to identify that is just another piece to the perpendicular lines. Now let's apply it to something. So in this one, they want me to write an equation that's perpendicular to y = 5x + 3 and contains 0, -2. So first of all, on this one, my slope is 5, which is basically 5/1. So if I want to find the perpendicular slope, I'm going to flip this fraction. So instead of being 5/1, it's going to be 1/5. But if this one is positive, then this one has to be negative. So this is the slope I'm going to use, as well as this point in my point slope formula. So let me get this written out here. So in this one, this slope is going to be that negative 1/5. My x value in this point is 0. My y value in this point is negative 2. So now I'm going to bring down the rest of my problem. So just like we talked about in the last one, I can see how this is going to be a plus. So y plus 2. I can also tell in this one that if I have x minus 0, that's just going to be x. So really this side is just going to be 1/5 x, or negative 1/5 x. So if I want this to be in y equals form, I'm going to subtract 2 and have y equals negative 1/5 x minus 2. And this is our final answer.